Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Zone Blitz. As always, I'm Vince Miller, joined by my co-host Ashton Overholt, and we're here to preview Week 11. Somehow it's Week 11. I can't decide if it feels like the season has lasted forever or if it's gone fast. Somehow it's already Week 11, but also it's been kind of a long season.
Yeah.
Is that weird that I feel both ways about it? I don't know.
I only feel one way about it. I feel like this year has gone on forever. So
Okay.
like it just like this year has I think I even said maybe like last week that Georgia played Clemson like an eternity
Yeah.
ago. Like that was so long ago
Yes.
and like so much has happened since then. So yeah, like that was the first kind of big game and it feels like we've had like numerous big games every week since. So
You're right, and there has been a lot going on this year. Probably it feels like more than normal. Well, let's just get right into it. We'll go through the games, and at the end, we'll give our five
yeah.
games to watch and our locks, like we always
Uh-huh.
do. So we'll start off Mississippi State at Auburn. Mississippi State, last I checked, is a 5.5 point underdog. Auburn is the home favorite there.
Yep.
Coming off a disappointing loss to Texas A&M, but they, I mean, it's been a thing at least before this year where Bo Nix is a lot better at home, and
Yeah.
maybe there's
Oh
maybe
yeah.
there's a little more proof for that after last week. You expect Auburn to bounce back here, or do you think Mississippi State, who's kind of like has had a sneaky good season, like you think they can scare Auburn here?
Oh, they can for sure scare Auburn. Both of these teams are completely like bipolar. They have
Yeah,
multiple like it's just dual personality disorder, I guess. And like Auburn's always been that way, and Mississippi State now like under Mike Leach, like this might be kind of how they are because it doesn't feel like Mike Leach always prepares for every team. Like
yeah,
it seems like there's like a couple of games like every year where like Leach like he's full on like he's the leecher, like
yeah,
he's in his bag. And then like there's some weeks where it's like, okay, he just mailed that one in. Like
right.
not a whole lot of prep in there. But yeah, and then Auburn's like always the ultimate wild card. So just it could be interesting. I'm probably not as interested as I should be in this game because like it could be really entertaining, but like I don't really care that much because I don't think either one of these teams are that great. The only reason to watch this game is maybe if Auburn really impresses and you think that they can beat Alabama later on in the year. That's
Yeah,
maybe something you could take from this game,
right.
but like I'm not sure. So like that's the reason to watch it if you're going to.
Do you know where the Iron Bowl is this year?
Let's look. Let's look right now. I
Okay,
believe because like that actually had just crossed my mind as well. So it's at Auburn. So it's
it
at
is
Jordan
at
Hare.
Auburn. So
That's right.
that actually makes so there's like the chance because I think Auburn
Yeah.
has
Oh yeah.
won the last two at Jordan Hare have been won by Auburn, I believe.
They have. No, that's right. That's right. They won in 19 and in 17. So
Sure. Okay, moving on. Oklahoma is at Baylor. Baylor just had the disappointing loss to TCU after being ranked 12 in the
uh-huh.
initial college football playoff poll. Oklahoma had a bye last week. Therefore, they were one of the few top 10 teams that didn't struggle. So, do you expect them to be like, do you think they're going to be one of these teams going forward in the top 10 that is struggling to put away lower teams? Or do you expect Oklahoma to maybe handle their competition?
Ooh. Okay, they haven't handled anybody all year. So I mean, saying that we suddenly expect them to handle people now is like they haven't shown us that at all. I said last week, like in the recap from last week, that I thought Baylor maybe looked ahead and passed TCU, like that was a look ahead
Yeah.
game. This is Oklahoma going to Waco, playing at Baylor in a game that will just absolutely be their Super Bowl. Like this one's interesting. Like for me, this one's really interesting and has like a lot of it carries a lot of weight. Like that game carries a lot of weight, especially if that game gets close. It stays close late. If Baylor's able to run the ball, if Bohannon is just like if he's not making huge mistakes, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, like I think that's interesting. I really do. I think and it'll be fun to see too how like Caleb Williams maybe responds to like adversity because like he hasn't been the starting quarterback when they've really played anyone good, and like we think Baylor is at least pretty good. So yeah, and it's gonna be a road game. It's gonna be a tough environment, so it's gonna be fun.
Sure. I yeah. Caleb Williams is one of the most interesting quarterbacks I think in the country because everyone else we've seen a lot of now.
Yeah,
We've
right.
still only seen a few games of him.
Mhm.
Obviously, the talent is immense, but
Sure.
and it
Do you
feels
think
like.
he?
Go ahead.
Well, okay. So any chance he's like Tua, like where the national championship? his first half of football was like kind of his best half of football. And he played pretty well like in the 2018 season, like for the first bit of it until he got hurt. And then he really hasn't been the same since. And like you can even see it in the NFL, and it's kind of sad. Like he's not that good. And like it just kind of declined from there. He's shown the bright, and of course, okay, to be fair, you can't shine any brighter than a come from behind victory, in overtime, in the national championship. Like that's as good as it gets, and it can't get better. So like in that way, it's unfair. Like it's a little bit unfair, like to Tua, but like, yeah, any chance Caleb Williams is that way at all too.
Well, there's definitely a chance. The one thing I would point to though in his favor is we saw this Oklahoma team earlier this year with a former number one quarterback recruit who was the Heisman favorite coming into the season. And it wasn't working very well. Caleb Williams came in and the offense totally changed and they're dynamic again. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like he does a good job of elevating those around him. Whereas I think there were times at Alabama where those around him elevated Tua to a certain extent. And I don't want to diminish what Tua did because he did do some really good things at Alabama.
Right. Oh yeah. No, for sure. For sure. So let's go into Spencer Rattler just like for a second. Okay. So just humor me here. Where has your opinion changed of him at all? And where do you think he will play next year? You kind of have like three options. So like college, a different college, Oklahoma, or the NFL.
I'm leaning strong towards college at this point, I think.
A different college.
A different college, yes.
Yeah, gotcha. Transfer portal out of there. Yeah.
It's already, I think, been announced that he's not going to stay at Oklahoma. Or at least there's reports.
Where would he go?
See, I think there's plenty of places that would take him.
Oh,
just
for sure, dude.
Based on the talent. I don't think he's going to like a top 5 program or anything like that. But there's a number of Power 5 schools that would take him in a heartbeat.
Right.
Guaranteed. I have no idea where he might go.
It did come out just yesterday. Rattler will officially not be at Oklahoma next season. Okay. So he's on his way out at the end of this year.
I can't remember. Did that report say anything about the NFL or college?
It looks like college, but I'm just scrolling through the report now, but it doesn't say. Yeah, no, not really. He said that he could do either one. Spencer Rattler's dad actually said that he could do either one. He could either go to another school or he might even declare for the NFL.
Gotcha.
Which would be a mistake in my opinion. But
yeah,
I mean, okay, like it's one of those things where I think some of these college kids just get bad intel from someone. Like there's some guys in we're going to leave as a junior, and like they'll go late rounds or they'll get undrafted. They'll never be heard from again. And I don't know, that's just sad. Like it really is sad. But
the crazy thing is, everyone had him projected as a first-round pick next year. If he would have torn his ACL,
top 10. Oh yeah.
If he tears his ACL in week 1 this season,
he's still top 10. He's still top 10.
Top 10 next year.
Absolutely.
All right. Are you also thinking he'll be in a different college next year, or do you think he'll go to the NFL?
I think he'll be at a different college. I don't know where. I think his stock, he needs another year in college way more than he needs a year to go directly into the NFL, especially if he has maybe a little bit of maturity issues, which kind of seems like he did. And he needs that. He needs to go somewhere that has a really good structure. You hate to say Alabama, but maybe, I don't know. Would he go to maybe if LSU,
Alabama has somebody they
do. Right.
Bryce Young is not.
Sure. No, understood. But he needs that kind of structure there.
Sure.
Like the maturity there. Maybe if LSU hired a really offensive coach, you could see him going there. Surely he wouldn't go to Florida. That'd be awful. I don't know. Ole Miss, I've seen rumored around. Someone actually, George is they have odds out for this, and George is third for some reason. And it's
really?
I don't really want him. I'm good. We'll pass.
Are you on the Brock Vandegrift train for next year, or is JT coming back?
Oh, I had it all worked out at the beginning of the year. I had it all worked out. This is going to be JT's year to shine. He's going to come in. He's going to play 1 year, and then he's going to leave. And it's going to be, and we're going to go right into Brock. And because Brock Vandegrift's, no one really talks about him. He's a 5-star. He is a really, really good quarterback. And Yeah, I don't know. A lot of talent there. Um, I try not to think about the Georgia quarterback situation much if I can avoid it at all.
Somehow every conversation gets there eventually.
It does. Yeah, it does.
Has
Yeah.
Vandegrift played at all this year as a freshman?
Just a little bit of mop up duty, I think, and even that's been very marginal. The number three quarterback behind Stetson and JT has been Carson Beck, who is also like a really
Oh,
high 4 star.
I forgot about Carson Beck. Yeah.
So he's been the number three guy, and Vandergriff has been in just a little bit
Yeah.
at the very ends of some games. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, let's move on here. Michigan is at Penn State. I think this would have been a even bigger game a few weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
It's still pretty big in my opinion. Like Michigan still has everything in front of them. They
It's
still
a
just
pick'em
have
game. Vegas has this at
yeah,
pick'em.
yeah. And it's at Penn State. Michigan. We are recording this Tuesday night, and there's a chance that we'll get some rankings at the end of our
Yes.
podcast here. I'm not sure, but as of right now, Michigan's ranked number 7. We'll see what happens.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, what are your opinions here? Do you have a strong feel either way about which one of these teams is actually going to win this game?
Um, I think Michigan will. Like for me, this is like, can Michigan get through all of to the end of the year to that Ohio State game unscathed, and then play for it all in one Saturday against like pretty much for like the Big Ten East, which you feel is pretty much for the Big Ten championship almost. But yeah, so I would lean Michigan, especially at Pick'em. Like I would lean Michigan. I understand it's on the road. Can Harbaugh like respond to adversity well? Like he hasn't really beaten good teams much, and like that's kind of the big knock on him, right? So like, yeah, I don't know. I'm watching for Michigan. Like I'm watching to see how Michigan reacts to that because it's going to be like a noon kickoff there. It's not a night game. It's not the whiteout type, but it's going to be very loud and very intense. So
Sure.
lean Michigan.
Sounds. I think a month ago I'd have definitely been leaning on Penn State, and I would not be shocked at all if Penn State did win this game.
Yeah.
But it does feel like I don't know. I'm not sure. Like for me, this is one that I'm staying away from personally.
Yes. Like it would. So okay, how would Penn State get at Michigan though? Like how are they going to? We've seen Penn State's offense be very inept at times, despite the fact that they have a really good receiver. And Clifford, when healthy, we'll see if he's healthy. When healthy, Clifford he's been pretty good this year. Like he really has been quite decent. They've been almost a little bit toothless, like in big situations. And maybe we still have trauma from like when the Iowa game happened, right? And it was so bad,
Yeah.
And Clifford wasn't in that game, obviously. But yeah, I haven't seen much from Penn State to just make me think like, wow, like they can handle Michigan. You know what I mean?
I think the formula for them beating Michigan is pretty simply their defense shows up, plays really well, keeps the score a little low, and their offense comes up with a few big plays. Like to me, that's pretty much the formula for Penn State in this game. Whether or not they actually pull that off, obviously we'll have to wait and see. But
Right.
to me,
Yeah.
that's the formula.
Right.
Okay, Purdue is at Ohio State. Obviously, the reason we're including this is just because Purdue has now beaten 2 top 5 teams already this year in Iowa and Michigan State, both of whom were frauds.
Yes, they were.
Did I say that out loud?
Yes, you did. And yes, they were. Correct answer. Hey, how crazy is this? With Ohio State's receiver room, the best receiver on the field will be playing for Purdue.
Ooh.
And that's crazy to say out loud, but it's true. Like that's not even that hot of a take. Like so Jackson Smith and Jigba has been the most productive Ohio State receiver this year, even though when we felt like Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave were probably like the best two coming into the year, they've been good, but they've disappointed a little bit. Like they haven't
Relative
been-
to expectations. Maybe.
Correct, right.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is all according to expectation. And like Bell for Purdue is just bonkers and just goes off against like he gets better in the big games, which is the mark of a truly great player. Like he just balls out against these top 5 teams like when they beat him. So and you're going against Ohio State secondary who has, let's just say, not been overly impressive.
This is true.
So I don't know. Like I'm just saying, I'm okay. Yeah, you hate to call your shot here because again, it's Purdue. Like, and Purdue's going on the road. But I'm just saying, there's a chance. There's a real chance.
So this line is either 20 or 20 and a half, depending where you look.
I have 20. Yeah.
Man, like that's a tempting one, I think. I know.
For Purdue, you mean? You take the
Yeah,
Purdue
well,
side?
yeah, for sure. I've talked to some Ohio State fans. I guess I would have talked to them Sunday, and they're terrified of Purdue.
Yeah.
They know they're way better than Purdue, but they're
Yeah, right.
terrified, and rightly so. This is what Purdue does.
Oh, I know.
Purdue is
I
not
know.
that good,
I know.
but they will reach up and grab people.
They're 6-3. They're not bad.
They're probably going to be ranked tonight when the rankings come out.
They should be. They absolutely should be. They have 2 incredible wins.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I know. And do you trust CJ Stroud? Like George Karlaftis, and I don't know how much you pay attention to mock drafts for next year, but George Karlaftis for Purdue, the defensive end, is projected top 10 in almost every mock for next year, and like has some really good talent, like as an edge rusher. And you just like you wonder because like let's just say like okay, the Ohio State offensive line hasn't been great at pass pro. They really haven't been great at pass protection. They gave up a late sack fumble in last week against Nebraska. It could have actually flipped the game had that ball bounced the other way. You know, like that could have easily been a game decider right there. So like it just there's a couple of key matchups. Overall, Ohio State is far more talented. But there's a couple, you look at like Bell matched up against the Ohio State secondary and Karlaftis going against some offensive tackles for Ohio State, 2 really big matchups and it's like big swing matchups where you know, like should the Purdue player win in those cases, like it leads to points. You know what I'm saying? So it makes you think that like maybe they get a couple turnovers, maybe they hit some big plays and hang around and that game gets close late. And Ohio State, who is young, and CJ Stroud, you know, starting like feels some pressure. Who knows? Who knows how it goes?
You remember earlier this year we were debating who the best quarterback in the Big Ten West is. I think it's pretty clearly Aiden O'Connell at this point. Like
it is,
and that says less about Aiden O'Connell than it does about all the other quarterbacks in the Big Ten West. But he has played well.
You don't like Graham Mertz? You're telling me you don't like Graham Mertz?
Well.
We've not been a Graham Mertz podcast.
We have not been a Graham Mertz podcast.
We're not big fans of him.
And thankfully for Wisconsin, he is turning it around a bit, but
a little bit. Nah, it was bad. It was really bad. It was laughable.
Really bad.
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
It was. So okay, just so for the record, you're a Purdue lean on this.
I think so. I'm not sure. I don't know that I feel comfortable making it a lock, but I'm just not sure that Ohio State has earned the right to be favored by 3 touchdowns over a feisty team.
Right. Yeah. They've rolled over Akron, Rutgers, and Maryland and Indiana, and then they've been in fistfights with Penn State, Nebraska, Tulsa, Oregon, and Minnesota.
So I would like this a lot more at 21 and a half.
Yeah.
If it was just over the 3 touchdowns. But yeah, 20 and a half or 20 is generally not just amazing value because it's right underneath the 3 touchdown threshold. So
valid. Yeah. Okay.
All right, another team that's just underneath the 3 touchdown threshold, at least as far as I knew recently. Let me just check this real quick. But anyway, Georgia.
Yeah. I've got 20 for that one as well.
Got 20.
I've got the same number. Yeah. 20. Georgia's favored by 20 going to Tennessee. This one's a road game.
Yes. So
I will say this as a Georgia fan, I have not bet on Georgia very much this year. I won $100 early on in the Clemson game, and then pretty much stayed away from them the whole time. If I was smart, I actually would have bet on them every game because I would be, I would be incredibly to the good on that side. But this is a line I feel pretty confident in. Like I think Georgia can cover 20. I really do. I think that like Tennessee cannot stop anybody. Okay, it's one thing to give up you just gave up 99 plays to Kentucky, who is not a really good offense. Kentucky doesn't have a really good offense. It's okay, but it's not phenomenal. And you gave up 99 plays, over 600 yards. You somehow won the game, but your defense is going to be gassed. Like I think it's really hard to come off of that game, a really big emotional game, late game. Like it went late, right? So like your starters didn't get any rest. Like you were playing until the very end. And then you have to get up for that team, like the Georgia team who's literally trying to take your head off every single week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like there's not like Georgia's going to be motivated. Georgia doesn't sleepwalk. They really
Right.
don't. Like I don't think right now, like with the way that team is, there's too much leadership and stuff for that team to sleepwalk. I would feel pretty good about Georgia covering 20.
Doesn't it? It feels like it could be like a 42-17 game, and that would
Yeah,
be that would Tennessee could put up if they put up 17, it'd be the most Georgia's allowed all year, and
yeah,
Georgia could still pretty easily cover this. So
that's
I'm
right.
I'm kind of with you on this.
If Tennessee puts up 17, you're like, wow, they have a really good offense. Like
Yeah,
that's not bad.
exactly,
and and
exactly.
and
And
yeah, like if they score even 2 touchdowns, you're like, this
that's
offense gets
legit.
after it. It is like, wow, what an offensive mind there for Heupel. Yeah, no, I would agree with you. It feels like it's going to be tough for Tennessee to hold Georgia under 40 with just the way that defense is, and like they can't stop the run really well. Like just everything Georgia does well, Tennessee, it just doesn't feel like it's a really good matchup for them.
What was the Georgia Kentucky score?
30-13.
So 17 points. Is that
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah?
Yep.
And we just saw Tennessee beat Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's that line makes some sense, but also like that was about as bad as Kentucky as Georgia has played all year. So
That was probably one of Georgia's worst games, and I think it was actually one of Kentucky's best games. Like I think
sure.
Kentucky balled out and lost. Like they got a late touchdown, like with literally no time left on the clock
Hmm.
to make that. It went from 30-7 to 30-13, or 30-6 to 30-13, and yeah, I don't know. I was at the game. Like I was just really impressed with Kentucky. I think,
Sure.
but
Okay, another big matchup. This is a ranked on ranked matchup. Texas A&M and at Ole Miss. Um, this was one I was looking forward to before the season started. We did
right.
not see this matchup last year, I believe. I
Hmm.
think this was one that was canceled due to COVID a year ago.
Yes.
Um, so it's obviously a contrast of styles. You've talked about it. A&M has finally started running the ball.
Yeah. It
We know
works
about the
out.
great defense there. Ole Miss this year, well, yeah, since they got Lane Kiffin, it's all offense. Their defense has played decent this year too,
Hmm.
but it's
Hmm.
about explosion, and they do it both on the ground and in the air. I
Uh,
imagine they'll probably have to do it more in the air this game, based on A&M's front.
Question: Jimbo Fisher is a top 10 coach in college football. Yes or no?
Oof, boy,
He can recruit now. He's getting some recruits. I don't know if you've been
yes.
watching. He's
I
starting
I
to.
think
He's
based on some of that, you have to say yes.
yeah.
I think you have to say yes.
Huh.
I I still don't love everything about like the offensive system and some of the game day decision making,
Yeah. He's
but
like a poor man Kirby Smart, like a little bit. Like he's like a poor man's Kirby Smart,
a little bit.
kind of. Like
Is he?
recruits really well,
Yeah.
doesn't make good decisions.
Do you think it's harder to recruit at Georgia or A&M?
A&M, I think. I think
Yes.
recruiting at Georgia is. I think it's been a gold mine for a lot of years. That like at Georgia, this is recruiting at Georgia has been a gold mine that no one has really talked about for a while.
Yeah.
And Kirby's just kind of like decided to like he has Georgia connections. Like he played high school and college in state, and like he's
Hmm.
turned that around. And I think it's been that way for a while. Now I think Jimbo like at Texas, like Texas is quite okay, and and A&M by the way is one of the wealthiest universities
Right.
in the nation, and like they have unlimited money pretty much. So yeah, I don't know. Both are good gigs. Both are really good gigs.
I definitely think I agree with you. And the reason I asked the question is just like that does tell us that it's not like Jimbo, like it's almost harsh to call him poor man's Kirby. Like I would say
Well,
is it fair to call him like 2017 Kirby? Because
yeah,
they've been recruiting like top 6, 7 classes,
right.
and this year it might be better than that. Like
But
we said it just in our last episode, like they're going to bring in the best defensive line class ever, like
yeah,
most likely.
I guess maybe why I said that is like so really since Kirby's been there after his first year, like Kirby's first full class and everything since then. So it's a 5-year sample size has been top 3 or better with I think 2 number ones.
Yeah,
Yeah, and a couple number 2s and number 3. So and then like A&M has never quite been, there
but
yet.
that's kind of why I asked the original question because isn't it roughly equivalent having the number 6 or 5 class at A&M Isn't that roughly equivalent to having the number one class at Georgia?
When you factor in the recruiting that Jimbo did at Florida State, like you remember like all those like really, really good classes that they had back there with like Eddie Goldman and like all those guys, like it was just unbelievable every year.
Yeah.
Then I'd say, yeah, like they'd be like kind of equal footing. Jimbo's just done it longer and done it at multiple places now. So yeah, and that way I would give it to you, like they would be more on equal footing. Like right now, like for the past 5 years, there's no question that Kirby's been better at it. So
yeah, sure.
Ole Miss, by the way, I think is going to struggle in this game. I don't know why. Just like I have the feeling, just I'm not sure why. It's just like I don't think that Corral is really like a lot of their offense is like Corral scrambling around and like creating stuff, you know. And like he's like their leading rusher famously, right? And he gets beat up like every single game, just gets blasted. And like he's kind of healthy. We're not sure like about his health. And A&M has dudes in the front line. Like they have like they have like multiple NFL like draft picks that are going to be coming after him, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how Corral holds up.
It's a very classic case of Jimmys and Joes versus X's and O's. This matchup right here, like we're talking about the team with the superior talent versus the team that is good based more on their scheme than their talent.
The Jimmys and Joes have been winning this year.
Yeah.
And most years. But like this year, like the Jimmys and Joes are almost undefeated. Like give me like an example, almost I'm not to single you out or anything, but like have the X's and O's guys won any big games against the Jimmys and Joes? Like when you're really like style wise, you know, like when like it's like a Florida versus LSU or something.
You just mentioned Jimbo Fisher and his days at Florida State. They did lose to an Oregon team in the playoff by 39 points. That they were more talented then.
Yeah.
I would say the gap
Marcus
was closer.
Mariota was the Heisman winner, though, right? Like Mariota won the Heisman that year, and like they had the better quarterback.
But that would have been that Oregon team, if they had beaten Ohio State, would have been the only non-blue chip ratio team to win the title.
Right. Okay. Fair.
So,
but you know, hey, that was 2014, right? Or 2015, 14. Yeah.
Also,
14.
Texas exists.
Yeah, well, hey, look, we can't be held liable for things that Texas does. They make talent look bad. Texas makes talent look bad. It's not the talented people's fault. It's just
Texas's NFL numbers are pathetic for considering the recruiting they've done over the last 15 years. Like
no one goes, no one gets drafted.
Oh, they do so poorly with blue chippers relative to their peers. Yeah.
Well, you want to move on to like NC State, Wake Forest, get into some real X's
Yes,
and O's.
that's actually my next game I had listed.
Nice.
Wake Forest, a 2 to 2.5 point favorite against NC State.
It makes no sense. That line makes no sense to me at all.
You feel like it's the wrong team favored here, probably.
Why? Well, how is Wake Forest favored there? Like we just saw them. We just saw what they were, and like NC State has they're much more consistent than North Carolina. Like I understand that North Carolina played really well in the second half, but like and you know and came back and beat Wake Forest. But like I feel much better about NC State beating Wake Forest. Like this could easily this year was the one like I think NC State should be favored here. Like I don't understand this at all.
The one pushback I would have on that is just the idea North Carolina is more explosive than NC State. Like they were down by 18 to Wake Forest in the second half, and then they went on just a ridiculous run.
But Wake Forest isn't going to hang 50 on NC State. Like that's not going to happen.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, NC State does definitely have a better defense than North Carolina.
They're much more solid. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch. At least it's going to be a must watch. I think you have to at least consider the fact that NC State could. If it's going to be a blowout one way or the other, I think it'll be NC State blowing out Wake Forest.
What are the ACC implications in this game? They're the top two teams in the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Wake Forest, of course, is still undefeated in conference because technically the North Carolina game was not a conference game.
What a sham! What a sham that was. You can play North Carolina in a it's a non-conference game at North Carolina.
But that tells you why the scheduling that these conferences use is kind of dumb because Wake Forest and North Carolina are in the same state and they barely ever play each other despite being in the same conference, which is why they schedule each other as non-conference opponents. This is why all these conferences need to go to pod scheduling.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Do we want to go on the commissioner thing? I mean, I'm okay to go on a commissioner rant a little bit. The reason why um, the SEC added Texas and Oklahoma is because they realized that all the leadership, all the real leadership, which is what Kevin Warren for the Big Ten, and then you like the ACC, and I'm blanking on the ACC and Pac-12. All the commissioners, all the other commissioners are new and inexperienced,
yeah,
and like don't. And then you have like the SEC like has just been sitting there for a while, just kind of like licking its lips, and finally they're like, we're gonna do this, and nothing happened. Like nothing happened. There was no repercussions. You can say the alliance, like they formed an alliance. It's pretty much just a non-aggression pact, is all that is. It's like a non-aggression pact that we're not going to take your teams. I mean, what has the alliance done for anybody? No one even talks about that anymore.
no,
And Texas and Oklahoma are going to the SEC, and those are two of the top 5 or 10 programs in the country. So like who won? Who won that? Like the SEC is like clearly took advantage of just the lack of ability of their other commissioners, and kind of showed that like that was not just like, hey, come to the SEC. It was, we're gonna take advantage of some other people not paying attention and being asleep at the wheel here, and thinking that just because there's COVID that we're not gonna be out making moves.
right.
Like I think that's what that was. I really do, and I think more could be on the way here shortly.
Oh man.
Sorry, you didn't like that. You don't think we're gonna expand anymore? It's going to eventually go to it's going to be a 20-team league or a 24-team league.
I hope not.
Do you think it won't? You really think
I would
won't?
rather abolish all conferences.
Why? Why?
I just think it's way more. I think college football is way more interesting when you have lots of unique matchups. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need to see freaking Georgia and Vanderbilt play every season. Big deal. Who cares?
Well, I'm
Nobody
saying
cares.
we'll kick Vanderbilt out. We'll add Ohio State, Clemson, and Florida State yet, and
Ugh.
there you go.
Oh man, I don't like it.
Okay. All right. Hey, we could just go to like the English soccer method, where you have like a Premier League and like the top 24 teams or whatever are in the Premier League, right? Like we have like the SEC, and like you can like the bottom 3 teams get relegated. So like the first year, so for example, it's going to be like Mississippi State. Well, maybe not Mississippi State anymore, but it's going to be like maybe Florida and Vanderbilt, and yeah, throw in one more team. I don't know who else it would be. They're going to get like relegated, and then we can like bring in like not Clemson, I guess, because they suck, but like Ohio State.
I've heard the relegation thing now for years.
It's a good idea, though.
I think there are.
It
So I
helps
think
solve
there
some
are
things.
aspects of it that I would like. You said like 3 teams. I don't know if I'd go that strong on it. Like maybe like
1, 2.
yeah, maybe it would make sense if you still had the old conferences as we knew them 6 months ago,
Yeah.
and you had a legit Power 5 and a legit Group of 5, which I mean, Conference USA is probably going to be gone soon, so that changes the dynamics. Yeah, if you'd have lined up one Power 5 conference with a specific Group of 5 conference, and every season, basically for those that don't know, relegation the way it would work is, let's say you take 2, so let's say the SEC would be lined up with, I don't know what would make the most sense. CUSA. Let's just go with CUSA. The Conference USA. Then every year, the top Conference USA team or 2 would move up to the SEC for the following season, and the bottom 2 SEC teams would move down. I don't think that's the proper conference that would actually fit in with the SEC, but yeah, good luck ever convincing schools in the Power 5 that that's a good idea, other than Alabama and like the top 10 programs in the country might be okay with it. No one else would agree to it because everyone else has bad stretches where they'd have to go down to a G5 conference, and it's just never going to happen.
Yeah, like I understand that. I think it's all interesting because like conferences, like you said, like some conferences are almost insolvent at this point, and some of them have come out looking like really rosy, like even despite having like lost teams, even like the American conference, like despite losing what they lost, so they lost Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF, right? or will lose them. But then like they go and add what they added 6, I think. Yeah, they added 6 teams. And like people will watch, like people are going to watch that. So I don't know. Like it's okay for there to be levels to this. I think everyone wants the parity.
Yes.
Again, I was in a Twitter argument, with some of Joel Klatt's, like his goons that follow him around, just repeat, just kind of harp on everything that he says, and I think that he's so great. And
an SEC fan hates Joel Klatt? Tell me more.
Okay, I actually did want CBS quit, or CBS is not going to be broadcasting the SEC games anymore,
right.
And their contract is up, and there was a small chance that the SEC would actually take on Fox as their next provider.
Gotcha.
And we would have to see all of those announcers do the complete 180 and come back and look at Florida and then we could have Gus Johnson just going, wow, and just losing.
Gus Johnson is a national treasure. I love Gus Johnson.
Like him. I don't get the hate. He's so good.
Yes.
He makes you excited. You love to watch Gus Johnson games. And for me, Gus and Joel are, even though I don't enjoy Klatt's, he's dumb. I don't think he's smart all the time with some of his takes, but they're really good. They're a really good announcing crew, and I would love to have them call any kind of Georgia game. That'd be awesome to see them in the SEC. So anyway, not going to happen. That's not the point. But we get back to Klatt again. Is that just you can't make everything equal? You can't make it all equal, and we're trying to make it equal and trying to even it all out, and it's just not going to happen. The big teams are going to want to play the other big teams and keep all the money for themselves because that's what everyone wants to watch.
Yeah.
And in some way you just have to be okay with that because I don't think there's anything you can really do to stop it. I don't think, or at least not that I've heard yet.
I think instead of having the relegation system, my preference, if you're going to change something like that, is just make the top 75 teams a separate division. And maybe you could do relegation from that down to the next, in other words, instead of having Power 5 and Group of 5 in the same division, where the Group of 5, they don't have a national championship. Right. Move the top 10 programs in the Group of 5, your Boise States and your whatever, all those schools, move them to the Power 5, and then give the Group of 5 a separate national championship.
Yeah.
Give both of them an 8-team at-large playoff. The first round on. Everybody would love that. Everybody would love that. I'm telling you.
8 teams? Yes. Really?
8 at-larges.
Yeah.
It would be gold. Gold.
The games wouldn't matter anymore. You got to remember that.
Oh, they would. More games would matter in November.
I was being facetious there.
Okay.
But I still kind of believe it. I'm a 4-team guy, and I was actually I could live with the BCS. That sounds awful, but I could live with the BCS still. And
I hate it.
Okay, I understand you did, but there's a huge drop off. There's a big drop off between teams 1 and teams, 7 and 8. Team 7 and 8 generally most years are going to get run off the field by team 1. And
sure, but at least you get a chance. Also, I think here's another thing people don't think as much about. So the way it is now, you finish up your season first week in December if you're playing a conference championship game, and then let's say you're going to the playoff, all right?
Yes. And
you now have a month to prepare.
Right.
Alabama uses their 49 trillion analysts. They know the insides of their opponent's teams better than that team knows itself.
That's correct.
With a month to prepare.
This is true.
Go 2 weeks after the end of the season for the first round and an 18 playoff.
Right.
You still have a little extra time to prepare, but you don't have an otherworldly amount of time to prepare. It's a little more of a level playing field at that point.
Yeah.
So there's still going to be blowouts and stuff, but here's okay.
You can't make it level, Vince. You can't.
No, you can't. I'm not trying to make it level. But there would be something. Imagine if a program, a Cincinnati.
Yeah. Okay.
With the current system, it would be a freaking miracle for them to make the playoff. It's not going to happen. They need so much help. It could happen.
It could easily happen this year.
It could happen.
We just looked at it. They had a 60% chance on 538. That was
if
2
they
days
win
ago.
out. Yes.
I think they will.
Okay, let me keep going. It might happen if you have an 8-team playoff. Like, there's actually like a much more like if you go undefeated, you get to make the playoff. Like, that's a special season.
Okay.
And if you're Cincinnati, if you go to the playoff and then you have to face Alabama in the first round, you go to Tuscaloosa and you lose by 30 points.
Yes, which would happen, by the way.
Yeah, probably would. You're still going to remember that as a great season. You can still tell your recruits you made the playoff, and that's a big deal.
Right.
Like, right now, Cincinnati, maybe after this year, they'll be able to tell recruits that you have a chance to play for all of the marbles here if you come to Cincinnati. If there was an 8-team playoff,
yes,
so many more teams could tell their recruits that, and actually it would be true. Like, because if you go undefeated, then you're going to make it a playoff. And it wouldn't make it even, but it wouldn't even be close to parity. But I do think it would get us like 3% closer.
Hey, something else we could do, Vince, and I just saw this the other day. We could do, instead of recruiting, we're just going to do a draft for all of the ESPN top 300 recruits, and we just go in order and we just draft the top 300 recruits. And that would also make parity too. I actually saw that idea. Yeah.
That's a terrible idea. Wow.
Well, I think yours isn't too much worse, or too much better.
Oh my!
I'm just not a big fan of 8 teams. I know
8 teams is so perfect.
It's gonna happen.
So perfect.
I understand it's gonna happen.
I think it's gonna be 12 teams.
It's coming. Like, it's gonna be even more. It's gonna go quickly to 16, right? Because 16 works.
I hope not.
Oh, it will. They're going to fill up every single week from August until January. They're going to fill up every single week, which is, hey, it's more college football. I should really be okay with that.
That's true. Like, if they go to 16 teams, I will watch the heck out of it.
Absolutely. For sure. No doubt. I don't think much will change because, especially like this year, like Georgia would have rolled. Say Georgia had been spending its time playing, all these weeks, like against top teams, and like they just scheduled the top 10, like a top 10 team every week, they would have rolled all of them. They would have, at some point, they would have had to play Iowa. At some point, they probably would have had to play Michigan State, Michigan. They would have, they would have beat down these teams. And these are the same teams that are going to be trying to compete for the 8th spot, And it's
so let me point something out to you. So you're worried about blowouts in an 8-team playoff?
No, I'm just saying there's no point in them competing. Like, there's no point. It's pointless.
I think there are years where...
When would an 8 seed win the national championship?
Not an 8 seed. But there are years where a number 5 team...
Who? When?
2014. We've talked about 2014.
Okay, so you thought TCU was going to win the national championship?
I think they would have at least been... they would have been in any game against any team that year. TCU and Baylor were so good that year. They would have competed with anybody. Yeah.
Okay, maybe. Any other teams that would even have a chance? The last 3 years, no other team would have a chance because 2018 Clemson, 2019 LSU, 2020 Bama were just, they were going to hammer everybody. No one had a chance against them.
We've seen a few historically great teams recently, but that's not how the sport always works. Like, there are
Georgia this year also historically.
We'll see.
Great
2009.
Great yeah.
Look at 2008 and 2009.
That was 11, 12 years ago.
But this is that's not very long ago in college football terms. Like, this is all cyclical.
Yeah.
Those would have been incredible playoffs. Those would have been incredible.
Who would have made it in 2009? Just humor me.
2009, there were 5 teams that finished undefeated. Alabama and Texas made the BCS championship game, and Cincinnati, Boise, TCU, I want to say, were the other 3 undefeated. And that was when Cincinnati was kind of they were in the Big East, which was not really Power 5 and not really Group of 5. Like, it was sort of a kind of a major conference at the time.
Yeah, Boise was undefeated at 14-0.
Boise Florida, and TCU were really good teams.
Florida was 13-1, had Tim Tebow's last year.
Yes.
Ohio State was 11-2. That was, I think, Terrell Pryor still back in the day. I think Iowa was actually would have made that. TCU would have made it, like you said. And Cincinnati. That
would have been a really good 8-team playoff.
Cincinnati got absolutely bombed by the SEC runner-up. in Florida in the Sugar Bowl. I'm just saying, like that's what happens.
That
That's why
was-
they were undefeated. They were undefeated. They go to the Sugar Bowl.
And that was
And they get
after
bombed.
Brian
They get
Kelly
bombed.
left for Notre Dame.
Okay. Anyway, okay, moving on. We have to finish this up. This is
All of that was from NC State and Wake Forest.
Yep, we went down a rabbit hole. That happens.
Yes. Okay. The next game, Notre Dame is at Virginia.
Yes.
A lot of question marks here. We don't know if Kyle Hamilton will play for Notre Dame or not. We don't know if Brennan Armstrong. That's probably the bigger one.
That much bigger for sure.
Virginia's quarterback, who before his injury a week ago was leading the nation in passing yardage, and is also Virginia's leading rusher. Like this is a guy
Gunslinger.
having a great season.
They don't run the ball though. Like that's the thing. Like you
Yeah.
don't have to run for much to be. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Notre Dame is a 5.5 point favorite here.
Yes, they are.
What are your thoughts here?
Notre Dame to cover. Notre Dame in a blowout. I don't see how. I understand it's a road game, so this game's at Virginia. Maybe that's why this line's a little bit lower.
Yeah.
A Brendan Armstrong that's even 75% is not enough to keep Virginia on the field with Notre Dame. I don't think so, especially if Hamilton plays. Like Hamilton has been out for a number of weeks now. Him playing would just be a plus. Like they've changed their defense. Like it's not like they're still like they have no one else. Like they've adjusted and like they played really well against Navy, who's like can be tough to play, especially. Yeah, like they have to play really good assignment football against an option team. So like they've proven that they can be okay without Hamilton there and still are smart and make good decisions. So like this is a team where like Notre Dame's going to be able to out athlete Virginia, and without a special player at quarterback, like this is going to be one of my locks of the week. Notre Dame to cover 5.5, no doubt, no question. Take it to the bank. I'm so good at my locks. Let's not talk about that. But hey, let's move on. Okay, it's one of my locks, and we'll just leave it at that. Bet on it. God bless you.
So I believe I could still get that at -5.
Can you really? I'll take it. I will take that.
Yes, it is still available -5 in places.
Okay.
So
Nice.
I'm not gonna lie, I also have it as one of my locks of the week.
Cool. Super lock. Let's go. Super lock.
I feel pretty good about it. I do think if Brennan Armstrong was fully healthy,
They still would have won. Still would win.
they would still most likely win.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And even if he plays, I don't expect him to be fully healthy. Like this is his ribs. We don't know if they're actually broken or if they're just like severely bruised or whatever.
Right.
Like
It still affects him though.
it still is going to affect him. He's not going to be able to take off and run as much because And Notre Dame, the strength of their defense is their line. I expect them to get after him. They're going to try to hit him hard if he plays. Yeah, I
feel really good about this one.
One of the reasons to watch this is just like Notre Dame is like obviously they have one loss. It was to Cincinnati. If they win out, they have a slight chance to make the playoff, and this is probably their last potential loss because after this, it's Georgia Tech and Stanford, who have both been pretty bad this year.
Not great. Not great. Unless you're Oregon, in which case you lose. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think, if I remember right, I think Tanner McKee has been out for Stanford too. So
yeah, he has. Still not playing, by the way. Still not playing.
Yes. I was thinking I had something else. So another. This doesn't have anything to do with the spread, but just as far as who wins the game, Notre Dame seniors have literally never lost a regular season game to an ACC team, and they play 5 every season. So
20-0. Look at that.
Yes, they're not quite 20-0 because I think this would be the 4th one this year. They still have Virginia and Georgia Tech this year.
They could go 20-0. Yeah,
they could go 20-0. Okay, Arkansas at LSU. No big stakes here or anything.
Arkansas
really.
should be ranked again. Like I know they're not yet because it's still Tuesday night. Like the rankings haven't come out, but like Arkansas should be ranked again. And I would be very surprised. Like Arkansas is a good team.
Yes.
Like I don't have a whole lot on this game. Like it's one probably not going to be a top 5 game to watch for me, but like I root for Arkansas. Arkansas is like a fun team to pull for. So
yes, it is. They're my favorite SEC team.
Okay.
I lived in Arkansas a few years, and I like them. And here's all right. I was thinking this was for bowl eligibility, but they already have 6 wins.
They already are. Yeah, they already are.
They're already eligible for a bowl, which is a really good job by them.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
I think we forget how bad they were like two 2 years ago.
We have
they
no
were
idea.
so bad.
They hadn't won a game. They hadn't won before last year. They hadn't won an SEC game in over 1,000 days. 1,000 days. That was last year. And like Sam Pittman gets there and was openly ridiculed because he's just a country bumpkin. And like, how do you like me now? Like he is having that team ranked and having wins. Like I know they got just like the break speed off against Georgia, but like to rebound and like they beat good teams. Like they have beaten good teams and they could have even have beaten Ole Miss. Maybe should have, maybe not, but like they're bowl eligible. And like anything you get from here is icing on the cake because they are improving. They are absolutely improving.
What are the Vegas odds on Sam Pittman having a statue one day?
He could be there for a while. That guy feels like he could be there for a long time.
Yeah, it feels like a really good match for sure.
It does. It does. Yes, it does.
Okay, look at my list here. I got one more game. TCU is at Oklahoma State. Now, TCU just upset number 12 Baylor. And now it's the other kind of second-tier Big 12 team who actually has a chance. Like, everything is still in front of Oklahoma State. Like, technically, they can still go to the playoff. Like, they have the one loss, but they still have to play Oklahoma. You know, they would have a Big 12 title potentially if they win out, or they would have a Big 12 title game if they win out.
Right.
Yeah, like, there's not a great chance that they would make the playoff, but, like, technically there's still a chance. So I guess my question is, can TCU play spoiler for the second week in a row here?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. Oklahoma State baffles me. Like, their defense is good. Hey, defense is like the thing in the Big 12. Like, I don't know if you've noticed this. We don't have high-scoring offenses out there anymore. Like, look at these games. Look at the games that are being played, and it's like outside of Oklahoma, a time or two, maybe against Texas. Like, the games are in the 20s. Or maybe the 30, maybe, but usually they're in the 20s, sometimes even in the teens. And you would have thought that was like the first quarter score, you know, like have you been watching, 3 years ago? You're like, well, they must be still early on in the first quarter because it's only 21-14 still. So,
yes. I will say, like, if we're comparing it to Baylor, with Baylor last week, you had the look ahead spot. For them.
Yes.
With Oklahoma State, they're playing Texas Tech next week. So they don't have the look ahead distraction at all. So yeah, I think this is probably a pretty safe spot for Oklahoma State. It is a 13 to 13.5 point line though. It's a pretty decent. That's a pretty big line, I would say. Okay. All right. What are your 5 games to watch?
Okay, let me go through them. So Notre Dame and Virginia obviously is one of them. NC State, Wake Forest is another one. Texas A&M, Ole Miss, give me that one. Obviously, Purdue and Ohio State cannot miss that game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which actually, that's actually going to be a really good game. And then Georgia Tennessee for me is going to be another one. So I'm going to put Georgia Tennessee on there just because it's going to be interesting. It's going to be Neyland Stadium. It'll be kind of it'll be getting rowdy there about 3:30, 2:30 local time. But it's going to be getting rambunctious. Nice. So that one will be fun. The locks, like I said, for Oklahoma Baylor. How am I going to get all these in there? I want to watch all these games. I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something surprising here, and I'm actually going to leave out A&M and Ole Miss.
Okay.
I'm going to leave that one out.
Wow.
I'm going to take Oklahoma Baylor.
Okay.
Because I really want to watch Georgia Tennessee. Oklahoma and Baylor. Yes, that's the correct answer for me. Let's go with that. And then for my second lock, I'll be taking NC State to cover 2. They're getting 2.
Okay.
At Wake Forest.
So your locks are NC State plus 2.
Yes.
And Notre Dame -5.
-5.
Yes.
You've got it.
All right. I already mentioned I'm with you on Notre Dame. My 5 to watch, I also have Oklahoma at Baylor.
Yeah.
I have Michigan at Penn State.
Okay.
Purdue at Ohio State.
Sure.
Texas A&M at Ole Miss. And Notre Dame at Virginia. Those are my 5. So we actually have like some differences here. Like we have.
And your locks are what? What are your locks again?
I have Notre Dame -5, and then my other one is actually Oklahoma -5.5.
I'd be tempted to take you in a lock fight there.
Nice. Okay.
I would be very tempted to take you in a lock fight there. I guess that means that we should just bet against each other. That way we can't be losing podcasts.
Last week was our first 0-4 week.
Oh, it was
all
awful.
year. By the way, like, we're not the only ones that have been taking a hit lately.
No.
There's a lot of smart people out there. Bill Connolly.
Dude. I follow some sharks. Like I follow they just have like small blogs or whatever, and normally really good percentages. And this year, like, they are taking a beating.
Yeah. It's kind of a common thing, I think. So Bud Elliott is one guy I follow a lot, of the Cover 3 podcast.
Yeah.
Does a really good job. Has lots of lines. Like, as soon as they come out on Sunday, he picks out the ones that don't make any sense before they adjust them.
Right.
And earlier this year, he had like a week where he was like 89% or something. Like, he was doing so well the first part of the year.
Just like us. Us.
Lately, like, he's still clearly over 50%. Like, he's having a good season, but it's like down in it's like in the 50s now. Like, Vegas is figuring some things out, and they
are. And part of it is because it's a weird year. Like, part of it is that too, because like teams that you don't expect. Like, okay, Syracuse is 8-1 against the spread. Syracuse. And people hate Syracuse, and they're 8-1 against the spread. It's like, just bet on Syracuse every week,
crazy.
Man. They're still not. Yeah. How can you go 8-1 against? Anyway, hey, good for them. We were actually like a little bit low on Dino Babers, and look at that guy pulling some weight this year, moving weight. Good for him.
Yes, I have no issue with Syracuse.
No, none at all.
They're kind of fun when they're good. So
yeah. Oh yeah. Sneaky. Carrier Dome.
I forgot. I was going to mention with the Notre Dame at Virginia thing. So Virginia coming off a bye, because of course they are.
Against Notre Dame. Yeah, I know. You hate that. It hasn't bothered you yet. Bothered you yet. Was Cincinnati off a bye?
So I actually have some of this pulled up. I believe Cincinnati was coming off a bye. So we did lose that one.
Yeah.
So Notre Dame signed their deal with the ACC in 2013.
Uh-huh.
So starting in 2014, they've played an average of 5 ACC teams every season.
All right.
And I have this pulled up, teamrankings.com. They have some cool things like this where you can find them.
Okay.
So since 2014, games with a rest disadvantage. Notre Dame is 24-5, which is a good record.
Right, that's very good.
But they've played 29 games. So they have 24 wins with a rest disadvantage.
Right.
Next in the country is Navy, who has 16 wins.
Yeah.
And Wisconsin is the next Power 5 team with 15.
It hasn't bothered you, though.
It really hasn't bothered us that much. I think it's kind of an overrated thing, but it is funny because it does feel like ACC teams, the ACC in general, it seems like they have clearly put an emphasis on giving their teams a bye week before they play Notre Dame. and like I said, Notre Dame's senior class has not lost a regular season game against an ACC team. So
hasn't worked out for them. Has not worked out for them. Good for them.
They might be better off giving their teams a bye week before they play somebody they can actually beat.
Real quick, just before we go, I know we're about to leave, but officiating this year sucks.
Yes.
It just is bad. The SEC officials are so bad. Like, sometime for bowl games, they're gonna have to trot some SEC officials out there, and I pity the teams that are gonna have to I feel sorry for you, because the SEC officials they're 3 blind mice out there and have no idea what's going on.
I don't even think it matters what conference you talk about. Like, it's just
even the NFL.
It's
even
just
the NFL
been crap.
It's been very bad. It's been very, very bad. It's bad all the way around. Yep.
Should we have a really deep off-season podcast episode about the effects of the way that our society treats officials and leadership, and how that makes it that no one wants to be an official, and why that's affecting the quality of our officials in sports?
Does anyone say that, actually?
I don't know.
Good heavens.
It sounds good, though, doesn't it?
They need to be berated publicly. They need to be followed home after the game and have their house egged, or worse. They're costing people money. They are costing people money. Last night, I don't know if you watched the Monday Night Football game at all. It was one of the most awful. The ref so clearly had an agenda to get late in the game. It could have easily cost them the game. I think possibly did. And it was just and it's he must came right from the SEC. Like, the SEC didn't want him, so the NFL must have scooped him up. And Yeah, I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. The officials are just terrible. Anyway, that's a good thing to go out on. Let's go out. We all hate the officials.
So are you still on NC State, or do you actually want to lock fight me?
Leave me on NC State. I'm good on NC State.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I'm just trying to check quickly. Do we have
I'm
any
1-0 in
rankings
lock
out?
fights. I'm 1-0 in lock fights.
Yes, you are.
I'm 1-0.
I want to talk about it. Cincinnati, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Man. Do we have any rankings out yet? Do you know?
I have not seen anything yet to my knowledge.
Okay.
And I think it'll be like an hour yet.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
So I guess we won't do a reaction on that.
Nope.
You guys can watch ESPN and yell at them if you want, but
talk about it later.
Yes. Okay. Thanks, Ashton.
Yep.
Been a lot of fun. Thanks everybody for listening. Tell your friends. That's right. For real. Do that. Have a great week and God bless.